You're listening to Crime Wine, the daily podcast that pairs perfectly with silence and suspense. I was 18, fresh into college, and living out of state for the first time. My first semester had just ended and it was May. I was heading home for my brother's wedding. The drive was smooth, traffic steady, the sun high in the sky. Somewhere along I-40 in Tennessee, I checked my mirror. That's when I noticed him. A truck lingered in the lane beside me, headlights locked in my passenger mirror. Even in broad daylight, the driver kept flashing his lights. At first I thought he wanted me to move over, but when I changed lanes, he stayed right behind me. Close, uncomfortably close, refusing to let any cars slip between us. He honked, waved, a knot tightened in my stomach. I wanted to believe he was trying to help, that maybe something was wrong with my car. A week earlier, I'd patched a hole in my tire. What if it had given out? The thought consumed me. Nervous, I planned to pull off at the next exit. There it was, a gas station. I turned in. My relief vanished as the truck followed, pulling into the lot and parking just yards away. My heart pounded. I jumped out, did a quick inspection. Tires fine, nothing wrong. He climbed down from his truck. My pulse spiked. I grabbed the gas nozzle, phone in hand. One already dialed, just one tap away from calling for help. He approached. I stayed between my open driver's door and the hose, forcing a barrier. He stopped a few feet away, looked me over and said, "Weren't you a purty thing?" Every muscle in me tensed. I was 18, barely 125 pounds. No match if he tried anything. I muttered a thank you, trying to mask my panic. He offered to pay for my gas. I refused. My gut screamed not to accept, not to give him any reason to expect something in return. Then came the questions. Where was I from? Where was I headed? What college did I attend? My instincts blared. Lie. Lie about everything. So I did. Nothing I told him was the truth. The pump clicked. Only $12 worth. That was my escape. I forced a quick goodbye, slid into my seat, slammed the door and drove off. Eyes locked on the mirror, waiting, dreading, half expecting to see that truck looming behind me again. But he didn't follow. He stayed in the lot, fading into the distance as I sped back toward the interstate. To this day, I don't know what he wanted. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was something much worse. What I do know is that I never reported him, and I regret that. Ever since, I've never looked at truck drivers the same way again. I shouldn't have to tell anyone how stressful the last 2 or 3 years have been. So many people lost homes, businesses, loved ones, through no fault of their own. At first, I thought I'd escape that fate, but the universe had other plans. Because of an old car and a drunk driver, I lost the most important person in my life. We married late. He was hesitant, afraid of ending up like his friends with bitter divorces. I'd been married once before, and I was ready to start a family. Still, I put no pressure on him. Eventually, he proposed, and we were happy. We tried for years to have kids. Even put off buying a new car just to afford fertility treatments. But life had other plans. Fast forward to summer 2021. The world was finally opening back up. We went out to our favorite restaurant. Dinner was amazing, like old times. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Until the drive home. My 20-year-old VW Golf sputtered, jerked, then died on the shoulder. Alan called AAA. We waited. 10 minutes later, a highway patrolman pulled up to check on us. I watched Alan step out, chatting with him, when everything went sideways. A car slammed into the patrol vehicle. I saw it hurl straight toward us. The officer tried to push Alan out of the way, but it was too late. Booth's men were killed instantly. I woke up seconds later. Smoke, twisted metal, and silence. My car had been shoved 20 yards down the shoulder. I climbed out, bruised but alive, and then I saw them. Alan, the officer, gone. And then I heard shouting. The driver of the car stumbled out, blood pouring from his head. The stench of alcohol hit me. He was drunk. I lost it. I attacked him right there on the highway, until bystanders pulled me away. I collapsed. I cried like I've never cried before. The funeral was a blur. The grief counseling after, slow, painful, but it saved me. It's true what they say. Time heals. But what they don't tell you is that healing leaves scars. Between 1997 and 2008, I worked as an emergency roadside assistant. That's just a fancy name for a repairman and tow truck driver in the Southwest United States. Before that, I was a mechanic at a dealership. The only difference was that, with the roadside assistance company, my service area was much larger. Most of the cases I handled were routine, ordinary, forgettable. But there were a few I'll never forget. The first incident took place in the late 1990s. It was early in the day, and I had just finished another call. I was driving on a remote section of highway when I saw a car parked on the shoulder, hood up, hazard lights flashing. Behind the wheel was a young woman, dressed in short shorts and a bikini top. She gave off a kind of Daisy Duke vibe. I pulled over, ready to help. She told me the car had just died. I suggested maybe it had overheated, but when I asked more questions, it became clear she knew nothing about it. "Oh, it's my daddy's," she said. Something about her tone, her fake ignorance, didn't sit right with me. Still, I carried on. I asked her to try starting the car. She refused, said I should do it instead. As I reached for the driver's side door handle, something caught my eye. A flannel blanket was spread across the rear floorboards, and beneath it the soles of 2 tennis shoes stuck out. My gut told me everything was wrong. I faked an excuse about needing a scan tool, jogged back to my truck, and drove off. In my mirror, I saw her throw her hands up in frustration. And then, a heavy-set man stepped out of the back seat, holding what looked like a crowbar. I called dispatch immediately. They promised to notify the highway patrol, but I never found out what came of it. That experience made me much more cautious, especially at night. The second story happened years later, in 2008. It was late summer, close to midnight, and still unbearably hot. I was almost off my shift when I came around a curve and saw an SUV stopped in the middle of the road. The driver's door was wide open. A man in a dark suit was pacing behind it. When I approached, I realized he was drunk. He claimed he'd hit a dog or something. That wasn't unusual out there. I'd handled plenty of deer-related accidents. I told him to sit while I checked. At the front of the SUV, I saw blood on the grille, but no trail leading away. That was strange, so I crouched down to look underneath, and there she was. The distorted, bloody face of a young woman staring back at me. I stumbled back, nearly shouting. I had to take a moment to collect myself before looking again. The second time was no easier. The girl had been struck and dragged. A horrifying sight I'll never forget. I told the driver it was a coyote, just to keep him in place. Then I called the police. As I sat in my truck, waiting, I watched him, drunk, oblivious, and my disgust grew with every passing second. That poor girl was probably just a hitchhiker, walking alone in the dark, and this man had run her down like she was nothing. The police arrived within 15 minutes. I showed them the body. He was arrested on the spot. After giving my statement and hauling the SUV to impound, I went home. But sleep never came easy again. The image of her face wouldn't leave me. My wife could see how much I was suffering. She made me promise to quit. And I did. I went back to mechanic work, and I've never looked back. Until now. This is the last time I'll ever talk about it. Some things are best left in the past.